USC women basketball.
Welcome to the latest episode of Trojans Wired, the podcast, which is an in-house production of the website Trojans Wire. We are part of the College Wire Network. Back at you with USC women's basketball analyst CC Clay. It's our Notre Dame preview show, USC and Notre Dame this Friday. But first, also a little bit of a review of the game against the Portland Pilots on Tuesday night. USC pulls away to win comfortably. Cece, your overview of the Portland game, and obviously we'll get into some of the details, but just your first thoughts on what you saw against Portland.
I'm happy they were making their threes. You know, that was a big must for me, anyways. And they were kind of cold in the beginning, but then in the second half they started lighting it up. Lenny Jones started lighting it up. Kennedy Smith hit some threes. Kara Dunn hit some threes, and they're all capable. So it was good to see. They shot 36%. 36% from the three-point line last night, which was fabulous compared to what they have been shooting. So I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, and a few other takeaways, but one prominent one is you think you've identified a lineup, a group of five that really works for the Trojans so far.
Well, I won't say really works for the Trojans so far, but in last night's game, I can
Against
talk
Portland.
about
Okay.
against Portland, this lineup was in the game at 5:55 left in the second quarter, and they played about 3 minutes together, and that was London Jones, Kara Dunn, Kennedy Smith, Jazzy Davidson, and Viv, and they had a plus minus of 13, and they just as far as lineups, they had the best plus minus as far as lineups throughout the whole game. So that was pretty impressive.
And
Viv had another good game though. Viv is starting to just kind of own her way in the paint now. I think she's trying to she's finally finding her way with what she needs to do for this team.
Well, let's just talk about that. Like, do you think like she is generally the number one front court option at this point, or it's still matchup by matchup, game by game, by committee? How do you think that Rubik's Cube is evolving for Lindsey Gottlieb?
Lindsey Gottlieb made it quite clear in the post press conference yesterday, and it's still a front court by committee.
Okay. We'll talk about that more when we get to the Notre Dame piece, but continuing with what we saw against Portland, another member of the front court stood out, Ms. Milton.
Yeah, she came in and played in the second half, and what impressed me was her hustle. She really, really hustles, and she took advantage of the time that she had on the court. And it always goes to show you when your number's called, you got to be ready. And her number was called in the second half, and she was ready. And she came in and got 12 rebounds. She missed some bunnies at the rim, but she was able to get her rebound and put them back in. But the fact that she kept fighting and she was just hustling really impressed me. So congratulations to Yakia Milton for just doing a phenomenal job while she was on the court last night.
One of the things you talked about in the Portland preview episode of our show was that Portland can turn the ball over, and USC was forcing a lot of turnovers. Talk about USC's defense getting after it and creating some of those transition baskets, which are going to be so important for this team all season long, getting easy offense from defense instead of having to grind it out every single time in the half court.
Yeah, they turned Portland over 29 times, and they were able to score 33 points off 29 turnovers. So that was a good showing. And they're going to have to be able to do that. Maybe not as high, but they're going to have to take the ball away from Notre Dame this Friday.
Yeah, so it just brings up the point. Like, you're not going to be getting 33 points off turnovers consistently. In terms of the full puzzle, in terms of the full distribution of offense, like what do you think is evolving for this team at the offensive end of the floor, and how it gets enough to win each night and support what is a very good defense?
Transition. They have to get out on transition and they have to get fast break points. That's their game. They want to move the ball. They want to play with pace. So again, this is game number 4. I honestly take it's going to take. I honestly think. Let me slow down here. I honestly think that it's going to take them about 10 games before they really start feeling that chemistry amongst each other and understanding each other's tendencies. And that's when we're going to see the offense starting to flow a little bit better. Right now, they're still gelling. They're still trying to find each other's tendencies and fill each other out. But last night, it looked really good once they got comfortable and they started finding their way. And once they locked in on defense, that was the key. They got to lock in on defense. And once they lock in on defense, that defense turns to offense. And you saw that last night.
All right, we're getting to our Notre Dame preview piece, but first our transition. This is our transition game with Matt and Cece as we go from Portland to Notre Dame. You saw things against Portland that you think can carry over to Notre Dame and that, bode well for this team, and specifically in terms of going up against big guards. Talk more about that particular aspect of the Portland game.
Yeah, Portland was kind of like us in the sense that they had big guards on the wings, and they really didn't have that big of a front court, but they did have big guards on the wing. And USC showed that they were capable of defending big guards on the wing and limiting their shots. So I was pretty impressed with that.
Any turn, just are we talking about just one-on-one, or are we also talking about communication and kind of hedging and providing help? I mean, was it the whole package, or was it mostly in a one-on-one context from your point of view?
One-on-one context, just limiting them from getting into the paint, and being able to guard the outside perimeter. They did effectively. I didn't see a lot of hedging. They didn't really have to hedge because of the kind of offense that Portland ran. But just the fact that they were able to guard big wings was really impressive to me.
Okay, and so, in terms of like what we saw against Portland and how it can be carried over to Notre Dame on Friday, CC, uh, handling pressure. That's going to be a big thing. USC is going to need to take care of the ball, valuing possessions. Uh, and so the Portland game ties into that. Talk more about, how the USC guards particularly held up against defensive pressure.
Yeah, so in the beginning, it seemed like they were a little discombobulated, I guess is a good word, amongst the press, even though they knew it was coming. But you know, it's new to them, so they have to find their way. And once they found their way, they were okay. I mean, I think they just have to get used to that type of pressure. That's the first time that USC has saw that type of pressure, and I'm sure they practice it. They practiced against their team when they were practicing, so they knew what to expect. But practicing and then being in the real thing are two different things. So once they got comfortable and once they relaxed and settled in, they were fine.
Anything else about Portland before we make the full transition to Notre Dame?
No, I just thought it was a good comeback game for them. It was a game that was needed because, as I said in our preview, Portland wasn't a bad team. I mean, they went to the WBIT, made it to the quarterfinals. They beat some good teams, and they're in a league with some good teams: Oregon State, Gonzaga, and I think they finished third in their conference. So this wasn't, a win by 50-point game. So I hope
Yeah.
people didn't expect that. I think that Portland did a good job. They came in here and they did the things that they need to do for USC to get better.
All right, and now USC will try to get even better to the extent that it can beat Notre Dame, pick up another quality win early in the season. So as we begin our Notre Dame conversation in earnest, CC, obvious talking point, obvious reference point as well. Michigan, a team that USC is going to be battling in the top tier of the Big Ten this coming season. And of course, that was a ferocious Big Ten tournament semifinal in Indianapolis last season. And this is a young Michigan team that now, those freshmen are going to be sophomores. Like Michigan figured to be a handful this season, and it definitely looked the part, beating Notre Dame 93-54. That's 39 points if you do the quick math. So obviously a lot for Lindsey Gottlieb, Beth Burns, and the rest of the staff to look at in terms of Michigan dismantling Notre Dame. That's going to be an obvious point of reference going into USC's battle this Friday.
Yeah, here I just want to go over some stats just so you understand what a great job Michigan did against Notre Dame. And in Notre Dame's defense, they had an off shooting night, and I expect that to be different Friday when they play against USC. But for instance, Notre Dame prior to the game against Michigan, they were averaging 99 points per game. They averaged 10 O rebounds per game, 21.3 defensive rebounds, um, 15 threes per game, and they shot at 32%. Their field goal percentage overall was a 44.5. They averaged 18 steals per game, and they averaged 33.8 points off turnovers, which tells me that their whole game is turnovers and transitions. They try to turn you over and they try to get out in transition. On fast break points, they averaged 25.5. So again, that tells me that their whole game strategy is to turn you over and get out on transition or get out on a fast break after a missed bucket. They averaged 14 turnovers per game. Now, when they played against Michigan, get my paper here so I can make sure I read this effectively. Michigan was able to hold Notre Dame to 11 fast break points, and when they usually get 25.5, so that's telling to me um, Notre Dame only got 2 points from their bench. They only got 26 paint points when they averaged like 40 something, from getting out in transition all the time. They had 18 turnovers and they averaged 28.3% from overall. What we have to do with them, which was when she tried to drive into to the paint, we collapsed, or Michigan collapsed in the paint, and on the perimeter they crowded her, just like they used to do JuJu when JuJu was running the offense for USC. The difference between Hannah Hidalgo and JuJu is this is the first time Hannah Hidalgo has seen something like that. Last year you had Olivia Miles and you had Sonia Citron. You had players around Hannah that she could feed, or Olivia Miles was mostly the one handling the ball between those two. This year it's just Hannah trying to do it all, and she's trying to spread the wealth to players that aren't as good as those two players were. So, and this is the first time that she saw that type of pressure, and it really affected her, and it really affected the Notre Dame game. So, I think we have the players to do the same thing. And the other thing too. Remember, Hannah Hidalgo, she's a good shooter, and she was also off. And part of that was because of the defense that Michigan was playing, and part of that is because Hannah was just off. So I don't expect that to be the same this Friday. I expect her to be hitting her shots along with De La Cruz, or the other De Jesus, I think her name is, the other guard that they have, who was a transfer from Duke. She's their other 3-point threat. So I expect those two to be shooting a little bit better in Friday's game. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how we come out and play defense against Notre Dame. I know that was
And
long, but I had to get all that out.
no, a lot. There was a lot there.
Yeah.
I think a natural follow-up to what you said, specifically in terms of, there's no Olivia Miles, there's no Citron alongside Hannah Hidalgo, leads me to a question I think a lot of USC women's basketball fans have about this game. Is this a game where you let Hidalgo get hers and you shut off the faucet for everyone else? Or is it a case of no, you have to make the role players beat you? Kind of the Charles Barkley kind. You gotta let the bad guys beat you. How do
Huh.
you think this game shapes up in terms of the game plan, in terms of Hidalgo and the Notre Dame supporting cast?
I don't. If we can control Hannah Hidalgo, we control everyone else. She's the point of attack. So if we can control her, limit her shooting, yeah, limit her points, yeah. But if we can control her and get into her mental, it's going to affect the entire team. And that's what Michigan did. Michigan was they were able to get into her mental and affect her game, which affected the entire game. She, like I said, she's never seen, the paint collapse like Michigan was collapsing the paint when she tried to drive. Usually she can slither her way through there, and Michigan was not having any of it. And then on the perimeter, like I said, they were crowding her. So when she tried to go on the perimeter on the wing side, if a screen came, there was somebody else right there to jump right in front of that screen defensively to stop her from doing what she wanted to do. So she would have to make an early pass or a pass that she really didn't want to make because of the defense that Michigan was playing.
And so, based on how Michigan was able to take away Hidalgo without sacrificing its defensive integrity elsewhere on the court, you see that as a pretty replicable thing, something USC should be able to similarly achieve because the USC and Michigan, just in terms of size and kind of the physical profile of the teams are similar.
Yeah, Michigan for that particular game, they went 5'6". I think it was 5'6" or 5'8", 6', 6', 6'1", or something like that. They didn't have anybody over 6'3" either, and they were able to contain Notre Dame. On the other hand, Notre Dame, they don't have anybody over 6'3" that gets a lot of minutes. Prosper is a Cassidy Prosper. I think that's her name. Cassandra Prosper is their big forward / post player, and she's 6'3". And so her and Hidalgo are the two mainstays for Notre Dame that played last year. Everybody else on that team is new.
All right, so we've talked about how the Michigan film that Lindsey Gottlieb and Beth Burns, the rest of the staff have been studying. How do we identify that and make it work for us? The other scouting report style angle for this game is how the North Carolina State and South Carolina games have prepared USC to deal with Notre Dame. I mean, it's a different game, it's a different matchup, but I'll make this particular point as kind of the lead-in, Cece. There was some size, and with South Carolina, you mentioned girth, power. And so after getting those two very robust tests near the basket, I'm getting the sense this matchup might not be as physically imposing for USC, and the Trojans can be better on the boards and can be better in a number of hustle play style categories. Is that a fair overview?
That's a fair assessment. However, you can only be as good as you want to be on the boards if you box out. It doesn't matter how big you are or how small you are. If you're not going to box out, who's going to be the most aggressive player around the basket? Is it going to be a Notre Dame player or is it going to be a USC player? And that's my thought process. Who wants the ball more? USC, no matter who they're playing from here on out, they have to show that they want the ball more when the ball is shot up and they're crashing the boards. And again, there were a lot of times in that Portland game where Portland would shoot the ball and fall back, so they didn't have to box out anybody. They just gave up the defensive rebound and was like, whatever, but there are teams that are not going to do that. There are teams that are going to crash the boards. And again, USC can't get used to just turning around and jumping and trying to get the ball. They have to put a body on somebody. So I'm interested to see if they're going to be able to do that against Notre Dame, because I would imagine, especially Hannah Hidalgo. Hannah Hidalgo is 5'6", but she averages a lot of rebounds for a guard because she likes to slither her way in there and track the ball no matter who's shooting. She's aggressive like that because she's ball hungry. She wants the ball. We have to be better than Hannah Hidalgo in wanting the ball.
Yeah, and just to kind of unpack that little nuance here, you've said it before this season on our shows that you can't just run for the ball or reach for the ball. It's getting your body in the right position, the right angle. We've all done that on the court.
You doing some dance moves, Matt? There you go. Go
ahead. It might be a dance move, but it's angling
we need to get you on
body.
TikTok. We need to get you on a TikTok dance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's all about wanting the ball more. People might think, oh, it's about how quick you are with your hands. No, it's you're sealing your opponent so that she can't get to it. Only you can get to it. That's the want to. That's the work. It's making sure that you're aware of your opponent, and with quick, physical, effective movements, you're creating a brick wall, and it's my ball. That's the desire in terms of getting rebounds and loose balls.
It's also eyeball coordination. You got to understand where the person is take the shot, and most of the times when that person takes a shot, if it's going to fall short, where that ball is going to land for you to get the rebound. So there's a lot into rebounding that a lot of people don't understand. It's not just get the rebound. There's a lot of defensive mechanics and a lot of footwork and a lot of body work and a lot of hand-eye ball coordination that goes into being an effective rebounder. And I think as the season goes on, you'll see USC get better at it. But again, the main thing is USC has got to want the ball. If they show that they want the ball, then they'll get the ball, right? But Friday is going to be a test because Hannah Hidalgo is one of those guards. She's feisty and she's aggressive and she gets a lot of offensive rebounds and she gets a lot of defensive rebounds for her size. So they have to be mindful of where Hannah Hidalgo is on the court at all times.
Let's talk a little bit about the USC offense. We've talked about the defense and how you play Hidalgo, how you play the Notre Dame supporting cast. Now let's flip it to the offensive side. What do you see as really central to USC being able to manage this game effectively against Notre Dame? And I would just say, as another lead-in, that we'd all love to see USC be super efficient and shoot a high percentage of shots. But, one thing you alluded to earlier is that Notre Dame is so dependent, at least thus far this season. It's a young season, so it's a small sample size. But nevertheless, Notre Dame really depends on takeaways and getting easy, fast break baskets. So, while some people might say, well, USC needs to shoot this percentage, it needs to achieve these various markers in terms of scoring, it's really about don't give Notre Dame free points with your offense.
Absolutely. They have to control Notre Dame's fast break points and or their run outs, I should say, and they have to control transition ball as far as Hannah Hidalgo or whoever on the team is getting a steal and then running out and getting points. They have to control their turnovers. They have to make sure that they're controlling the pace of the game, and USC has to make sure that they're guarding the ball when they're on offense, even because Hannah Hidalgo is, she likes to come in there and steal those balls. But as far as offensively, in our half court game, Michigan did a phenomenal job of passing the ball, passing around the perimeter, and then finding the open person and shooting that three. And Olivia Olsen, who's a big guard, she's a 6-foot guard, is a three-way scorer. So was their other guard, Savia Swords. I forget her name, but they're both three-level shooters, and they can hit that three ball. And what you saw was a case of both, where Swords was hitting that three-point ball with efficiency, and Olivia Olsen was able to drive the ball and get buckets there. So, I'd like to see, Kennedy, Kara, they're all bigger. They're bigger than Notre Dame's team somewhat. So I'd like to see them be able to drive and kick and hit their threes. If they're able to do that, then we should win this game.
I know far less about basketball than you do. I know way, way less about basketball than Lindsay Gottlieb does. But I know this much. You don't want to be putting the ball on the deck next to Hannah Hidalgo, because she is, in terms of steals, she is the ultimate pickpocket in women's college basketball. So just that detail, you want to beat Hidalgo with the pass. And if you're in other matchups against other Notre Dame players, that's where you try and beat them on the dribble. Basic point, or is it a little more complicated than that?
Yeah, I think if you dribble drive against Hannah Hidalgo, I mean, we have good ball handlers. So if you dribble drive against Hannah Hidalgo and get her in the paint and get her to foul, let's get in her head. Let's take it to her. I don't care. I would take it to her all the time and get her in foul trouble.
How about posting her up?
Yeah. Now she's gonna, when we have the big guards in, it depends who she's gonna guard. I don't know if she's gonna guard Malia. I'm sure she'll probably guard Malia and London Jones. I mean, I would dare their coach, Neil Ivey, to put Hannah on one of our big guards, because our big guards will eat any of them. Jazzy, Kennedy, or Kara, they're just too big for her, So I would see
over the top, right?
They could play over the top and post Hannah Hidalgo up and win that battle every time. So this is going to be a fun game. I mean, their other guard, the one from Duke, I just don't remember the name off the top of my head. I'm sorry. Yeah. She's a good 3-point shooter too. She's been averaging in double figures. She happened to have an off game as well. So the trio of Prosper, the other guard from Duke, and Hannah Hidalgo, if they're hitting their shots, it'll be a lot to handle. The key is going to be to get in their head, disrupt, defend and disrupt, stop them from getting fast break points, stop them from getting out on transition, and reverse it. And we do what they like to do. We do that to them.
In terms of Kennedy, let's talk about Kennedy Smith. Obviously Jazzy Davidson getting a lot of publicity, fresh publicity this season because she's new onto the scene. But like, Kennedy Smith, having been through this rodeo of playing big games like this, I'm thinking that this is a game where she needs to really make her presence felt. Also on the road as well. And she is powerful. She's not a string
Strong.
bean. She's
Yeah.
strong. So she seems to me to be the person in terms of on the bounce, posting up. She could get a lot of work done in her matchup against Notre Dame.
Yeah, depending on who Notre Dame starts tomorrow, I would imagine that we might see Kennedy in the post a little bit more, especially if she has a smaller guard on her. And so she can turn and drive, do a dribble drive, or shoot that little jumper right there, or pass the ball to an open player. So that's going to be interesting to see. But Kennedy's stat line against Portland was really good in my opinion. 13 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals. She had a really good game, and she was 50% from 3. So she's starting to come into her own. The one thing that people need to understand about Kennedy, again, is Kennedy's a perfectionist. So she wants to be perfect at everything. She wants to be her best at everything. And that's okay. That's okay. But you can't let it frustrate you when it's not happening. The other thing I will say about Kennedy is she's being asked to do so much, and people who don't understand, people who just watch basketball as fans don't understand that about Kennedy, that she's being asked to do so many different things on the court and control a lot of things that are happening on the court. So, Kennedy will be fine. I love Kennedy Smith. This game, I would like to see her on the post a little bit more, especially if she has a smaller guard against her. But I expect Kennedy to come out ready to play on Friday because it's Notre Dame, and she'll be up for that game.
All right.
There's no love lost between Notre Dame and USC and Hannah Hidalgo and USC. Everybody knows that because Notre Dame beat USC on USC's home court last year. So there is no love lost, and I would expect, of all people, Kennedy Smith and the returners from last year, Malia Samuels, to be ready to play and get the team up and remind the team what happened at Galen last year and get their minds ready to play this game at Notre Dame.
All right. Is there anything else about this game, this matchup that we haven't yet covered that you want to be sure we talk about?
The other thing I want to remind people is the game between Notre Dame and Michigan was at a neutral court. It wasn't at Notre Dame, so that makes a big difference. This game is being played at Notre Dame. It'll probably be sold out. It'll probably be loud, which is going to be, to Notre Dame's favor. And Hannah Hidalgo is going to be, like I said, she's going to come ready to play because there's no love lost between Notre Dame and USC, or I would say JuJu and Hannah Hidalgo. So even though JuJu's not playing, Hannah Hidalgo is going to want to take it to USC because she wants to own USC. So I would expect it to be a fun game. I would expect it to be a lot closer than people think, as far as comparing it to the Michigan Notre Dame game, because it's on Notre Dame's home court. That's the only reason why I think it'll be a lot closer than people think.
All right, CC, tell people what you have going on at your USC Women's Basketball Media Lab and the other media involvements you have going on.
So I did write a Substack. For those that read it, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll leave it at that. It wasn't sports. It didn't have anything to do with sports. It was just what's on my mind about the world today and our government. So I wrote that story. Go read it. Go check it out. And then, the post-game press conference and everything is on my YouTube. So, again, one-stop shop. You want to see post-game press. Although I'm not going to Notre Dame, so I'm sorry, guys. Post-game press conference will not be on my channel this weekend. I'm so sorry. But we will be doing a review, and hopefully I can do a breakdown of that game if I can find a copy on YouTube that won't copyright me. So I miss doing my breakdowns. I want to do them so bad, but I every time I try, I get a copyright X. So I just have to find games that I can break down that won't copyright me. Or, what I'll do is I'll just start going over analytics, because I think that's an important part of the game that people want to know about, and people want to be educated on why analytics matter. So I'll start doing some videos on analytics of games and breaking it down that way. Coming soon.
YouTube has decided to be Rhea Marshall, just swatting everything away this year. Wish YouTube would kind of just cool it, but like that's the world that we live in, CC.
Yeah, it is what it is, but still got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm looking forward to next week. So I got a couple people coming on next week that you guys will enjoy seeing. So that's good. And next Tuesday there's another game against Tennessee Tech. That should be a fun game, so I'll be there. And for those coming to the game and saying hi to me, thank you. I appreciate it, because I always want to know who you are. It's great to meet people who watch my stuff and support me. I appreciate it. And yeah, that's about it. Go read my Substack, though. Y'all will like that story, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, hey, when you meet CC at a USC women's basketball game, it grows the family, it grows the community. Everybody can like, subscribe, share, tell everybody about CC Clay and what she has going on. It's a really good thing, and we're just trying to build this thing and grow it each and every day. All right, so one note about our Notre Dame review show and when that's going to happen. This game's Friday night. You might know that Saturday there's this sport called football being played. Yeah. So I'm going to be busy all day long.
He's trying to tell me not to bother him. He's just trying to nicely say, CC, don't bother me. That's all he's trying to say. So
I'm about to say we're going to do our review show on Sunday, because it sure as heck won't be done on Saturday. There won't be any time for that. So
he's shutting me down, guys. I don't know about. He's shutting me down. Hey, you guys leave comments. Tell Matt not to shut me down over some football.
It's just postponing our post-game show, our reaction show, by 24 hours. But we're coming at you Sunday with a review of the Notre Dame game. That when big games are on Fridays, then that's just how the cookie crumbles. We won't be dealing with this again, because USC's football season ends at the end of November. So we won't be dealing with this in December or January, for that matter. It's a one time only. Yeah. This is the exception that proves the rule. All right. Any final words, CC, before we go?
Hey, no, but hey, Matt, why don't you show everybody your dance moves one more time before we get out of here?
The boxing out.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There's Matt's dance moves. All right. Hey,
get
everybody,
down,
fight on.
Because you do need to get down, right?
Hey, look,
low
we gotta start.
Gravity.
Fight on, everybody.
We'll see you next time.